Hello, everyone. Chief Meteorologist Matt-Holiner. Well, much of the day across Iowa, there won't be anything to worry about. But as we get into the late afternoon and evening hours, that is going to be changing. Lots to talk about. Let's get right to your hour-by-hour forecast. 8 a.m. this morning. There are some showers out there this morning, but this is not what we're concerned about, and not everyone's going to see them. It is scattered activity, particularly in the central part of the state. So some may encounter some rain for the morning commute, but that's it. Others will not. Not what we're concerned about. Let's get to 5 o'clock this afternoon and see that shade of red and orange popping up in the far northwestern part of the state. And this is what I'm most concerned about in the late afternoon and early evening hours are some supercell thunderstorms popping up. Jump ahead to 7 o'clock and see how it is pretty isolated activity, but we do think some supercell storms are going to pop up. And the problem is, where these storms do pop up, they can produce some pretty large hail, up to golf ball size. And yes, when you talk about a supercell thunderstorm, we're talking about the possibility of tornadoes as well. And notice how it gets awfully close to Fort Dodge, Mason City. You have a chance for those supercell storms. But also notice at 7 o'clock how it's not just supercells showing up, that isolated activity, but look how a little line of storms is starting to form as well. So when's the peak of the activity this evening? It's looking like 9 o'clock. That could be a combination where we still have those supercells ahead of the line. See that showing up around Waterloo and Mason City, those little isolated storms, but then a line of storms behind it. So it's possible, certainly hope not, that you could have a supercell storm work over you and then the actual line of storms work over you. So it's like kind of a peak of the severe threat around 9 o'clock, though I will say it takes later in the night. The farther east you live, the longer it's going to take for those storms to get to you. Again, the biggest threat for places like Sioux City is late this afternoon, very early this evening, but for Mason City, we're talking about 7, 9, 10 o'clock, and a little bit later still for Waterloo. Notice that by the time we get to 11 o'clock, we're not seeing those supercells anymore, so the hail threat going down and the tornado threat going down, but we could still be talking about damaging wind gusts, maybe some very tiny hail, and certainly heavy rain, lightning. Notice 11 o'clock. A peak in activity around Mason City and starting to push into Waterloo, not so much in Sioux City, though. Meanwhile, all this time, not much going on in the Quad Cities, but this line is going to be pushing to the east, though it will be weakening. Check out 1 a.m. and notice how that line, you're not seeing as many of those shades of red showing up. So it's going to be a weakening line, but sometimes as these lines fall apart, they can still produce some pretty good wind gusts. So as we get to 3 a.m. looks like probably the best chance of that line pushing into the Quad Cities. Could there still be some damaging wind gusts? Could there still be some small hail? Yes, but the threat is certainly smaller in the Quad Cities than what is going to be occurring around Sioux City, Mason City, Waterloo, Fort Dodge, and Des Moines. That said, 8 a.m. in the morning, that area of rain will be moving out, but notice how another area of rain starts to move back in because the cold front not clear of the state yet, so new showers and storms are going to pop up in the afternoon of Wednesday for the Quad Cities. This may end up being your slightly better chance for severe storms, or at least equal to what we're going to see tonight, where it's probably more likely just going to be heavy rain and lightning, but could there be some hail? Could there be some damaging wind Wednesday afternoon? Yes. The good thing is by 7 o'clock in the evening, all the activity will be clear of us, and the cold front will be clear of us as well. So let's break down the severe threat because it is higher in the western and central part of the state than the eastern part of the state. Notice that shade of brown, orange showing up versus the shade of yellow to the east. So for Sioux City, Mason City, Waterloo, Des Moines, Omaha, you're under that enhanced risk of severe storms, level 3 out of 5. And the threat for severe storms is 4 o'clock this afternoon until 1 a.m. tonight. That 4, 5, 6 o'clock time frame is most likely for Sioux City. Later in the evening for places like Mason City, Waterloo, it will take a little bit longer for the storms to reach you. What are we concerned about in a worst-case scenario? Well, I hate to say it, but I do think we're going to see some tornado warnings this evening, and I certainly hope not, but we can't rule out EF2, EF3 tornadoes, so not just those weak EF0, EF1 tornadoes, but perhaps a larger tornado popping up. That is a possibility. Now, what we're more concerned about, what's more likely, though tornadoes are possible, is hail and high wind. I do think we're going to see some golf ball size hail pop up in spots and perhaps wind gusts up to 70 miles per hour. And if you get one of those supercells to work over you and then that line of storms that I talked about, up to 2 inches of rain is possible. But still, the flood threat, again, it takes usually more rain than that to cause flooding. So that's the smallest, that's the least concern, but heavy rain and lightning will certainly be common, and I'm most concerned about is that golf ball size hail, particularly in those supercell storms that pop up ahead of that line. Let's finish talking about the Quad Cities, though, where the threat is certainly smaller. Notice we're not worried about golf ball size hail. I think at most we're talking quarter size hail. In fact, I'd be willing to say that it's more likely you're not going to see severe weather in the Quad Cities, but we have to leave the chance in. If those storms overachieve and hold together longer as they push in, and notice the threat is very late tonight, not starting until 1 a.m., and maybe as late as 5 a.m. So a peak of activity around 3 a.m. is when that line of storms is most likely to be pushing in. More likely just heavy rain and lightning. Can't rule out some quarter-size hail, maybe wind gusts up to 60 miles per hour. I know I hate to say it, but can't rule out an EF0 or EF1 very quick spin-up tornado, not a big tornado that could happen in the western or central part of the state, but maybe a quick tornado spinning up. And it does look like just one round of rain for you, so at most we're talking about an inch of rain. All right, so that was a severe threat, but we do have to talk about temperatures as well. I wish we could enjoy these warmer temperatures. My goodness, look at 77 in Sioux City, 75 in Des Moines, 68 in Davenport, a little bit cooler in north, 61 for our high in Mason City. And again, during the afternoon, we got that chance of rain in the morning, and then we kind of dry out in the afternoon, but it is going to be a windy afternoon. Even if you don't see severe storms, we're talking about wind gusts 35, 40 miles per hour across the state. And it is going to stay breezy tonight. Again, even if you don't see one of those severe storms that could produce that damaging wind, we're talking about wind gusts 25, 30 miles per hour. Look at the huge difference in temperatures, though. So very late tonight, early tomorrow morning, we're going to cool down to 31 in Sioux City, but only 62 in Davenport because the cold front doesn't make it to you. And that's why that chance for severe storms does continue for the Quad Cities tomorrow, but for the rest of the state, cooling down, so the severe threat going away. Again, we're going to see that variety in temperatures tomorrow as well. A high of just 49 in Sioux City, 47 in Mason City, 52 in Waterloo, but reaching the low 60s in the Quad Cities, and it's still looking like a windy day, gusts 30 to 35 miles per hour.